In 2026, the world was shocked by a headline that sounded almost impossible. Elon Musk, the entrepreneur behind rockets, electric cars, and artificial intelligence, had briefly become the first person in history whose net worth reached $1 trillion. People everywhere asked the same question. How could one person build so many successful companies? How could a quiet boy from South Africa reach a level of wealth that even kings and emperors never achieved? The answer begins decades earlier, on a peaceful night in Pretoria, South Africa. While most children were sleeping, a young boy stood outside and looked up at the stars. He did not know exactly what his future would look like, but deep inside, he felt that he was meant to build something important, something bigger than himself, something that could change the future of humanity. Elon was not like most children. While others spent their afternoons playing sports or watching television, he preferred spending time with books. He read science fiction novels, encyclopedias, history books, and anything else he could find. His curiosity seemed endless. Sometimes he became so focused on reading that he completely ignored the world around him. Family members would call his name several times before he finally looked up. Some people thought he was strange. Others believed he was simply shy. What they did not realize was that Elon was already exploring worlds that existed far beyond his neighborhood. Every book gave him a new idea. Every idea made him dream bigger. In the early 1980s, computers were still rare. Most people saw them as expensive machines for businesses and scientists. But when Elon received a Commodore VIC-20 computer, his life changed forever. At first, the machine looked complicated. Yet, instead of feeling intimidated, Elon felt fascinated. The programming manual was designed to teach people. Over several months, Elon finished it within days. Soon, he was spending hours writing lines of code and experimenting with new ideas. The computer was not just a machine. It was a doorway into a future that only a few people could see. At the age of 12, Elon created a simple video game called Blastar. The game was not revolutionary. It did not make him famous, but it taught him a lesson that would stay with him forever. Ideas could become products. Products could create value, and value could change lives. A technology magazine purchased the game's code for approximately $500. For most children, earning money from a homemade game would have been an exciting achievement. For Elon, it was proof that technology could turn imagination into reality. Not every part of Elon's childhood was inspiring. School was often difficult. He was frequently bullied by other students. Sometimes the bullying became physical. Sometimes it became emotional. There were days when he felt isolated and misunderstood. Many people would have allowed these experiences to destroy their confidence. Instead, Elon escaped into learning. Books became his refuge. Technology became his companion. And dreams became his protection. Without realizing it, the difficult years were building a resilience that would later help him survive challenges far greater than school. As Elon grew older, he became convinced that his future was not in South Africa. He admired innovation. He admired technology, and he believed that North America offered the greatest opportunities in the world. The decision to leave was not easy. Leaving meant abandoning familiarity, friends, and the life he had always known. Yet sometimes, the biggest opportunities require the biggest sacrifices. At 17 years old, Elon chose uncertainty over comfort. It was a decision that would change the rest of his life. When Elon arrived in Canada, life was far from glamorous. He did not arrive as a wealthy entrepreneur. He arrived as a young man trying to build a future. To support himself, he worked difficult jobs. Some involved physical labor. Some involved long hours. None of them looked anything like the future he imagined. Yet Elon understood something important. Temporary discomfort is often the price of long-term success. Every difficult day brought him one step closer to his goals. Eventually, Elon attended university. There, he studied physics and economics. To most students, these subjects seemed completely different. To Elon, they were connected. Physics explained how reality worked. Economics explained how people and businesses made decisions. Together, they provided a framework for understanding both technology and society. Years later, these lessons would influence every major company he built. By the mid-1990s, the Internet was beginning to grow. Most people still did not understand its potential. Elon did. He believed the Internet would transform human civilization, just as electricity had transformed the previous century. Together with his brother Kimball, he launched a company called Zip2. The company helped businesses appear online at a time when being online was still unusual. Many people thought the idea was risky. Elon believed it was inevitable. Money was limited. Resources were scarce. The company was struggling. To save money, Elon often slept inside the office, while others went home after work. He stayed through the night, writing code and solving problems. The startup world was brutal. Most new businesses failed. Every morning could have been the day Zip2 collapsed. Yet, Elon refused to quit. He believed that if he worked harder than everyone else, eventually success would arrive. The question was not whether he would face obstacles. The question was whether he could survive them. Years of hard work were finally beginning to pay off. Zip2 was no longer a small startup struggling to survive. More businesses were joining the platform, and investors were starting to notice what Elon and his team had built. For the first time, the dream felt real. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1999, a major technology company decided to buy Zip2 for more than $300 million. Suddenly, Elon Musk was a millionaire. Many people would have celebrated, bought expensive houses, and retired early. But Elon was not interested in comfort. He was interested in the future, and he was already thinking about his next move. After the sale of Zip2, Elon could have played it safe. Instead, he invested much of his money into a new company called X.com. The idea sounded risky. At the time, most people still trusted traditional banks. The thought of moving money through the Internet made many people nervous. But Elon believed that online payments would become a normal part of everyday life. Friends warned him. Investors questioned him. Experts doubted him. Yet Elon continued moving forward. Throughout his life, he often followed opportunities that others could not yet see. As competition increased, X.com merged with another company. The new business eventually became known as PayPal. The company grew rapidly. More and more people began using online payments. For the first time, millions of customers trusted an internet company with their money. PayPal was helping shape the future of digital commerce. However, success brought new challenges. Leadership disagreements emerged inside the company. Elon found himself involved in difficult conflicts about the company's direction. The journey was becoming more complicated than anyone expected. In 2002, PayPal was acquired by eBay for approximately $1.5 billion. The deal made Elon Musk extremely wealthy. At only 31 years old, he had already achieved a level of financial success that most people could never imagine. Yet something felt missing. Money had never been his ultimate goal. He wanted to build things. He wanted to solve problems. Most importantly, he wanted to help humanity move forward. The world saw a successful businessman. Elon saw unfinished work. Around this time, Elon became increasingly concerned about humanity's future. What would happen if a global disaster struck Earth? Could civilization survive? These questions led him to an unusual conclusion. Humanity needed a backup plan. Humanity needed another planet. Many people considered the idea ridiculous. Mars was millions of kilometers away. Space travel was incredibly expensive. Governments dominated the space industry. Private companies rarely entered the field. Yet Elon believed that impossible goals often become possible when enough determined people work on them. In 2002, Elon founded SpaceX. The mission was simple to describe but incredibly difficult to achieve. Make space travel affordable. Eventually send humans to Mars. Many aerospace experts laughed at him. Building rockets was one of the hardest engineering challenges on Earth. Even governments struggled with failures. What chance did a private startup have? But Elon had learned something important. Throughout his life, experts are not always right. Sometimes, progress comes from people who refuse to accept existing limits. After years of preparation, SpaceX launched its first Falcon 1 rocket. Employees watched nervously. Investors waited anxiously. Elon knew that years of effort were being tested. The rocket lifted into the sky. Then disaster struck. The mission failed. The rocket crashed back to Earth. Millions of dollars disappeared within minutes. Critics immediately attacked the company. Some declared that SpaceX was finished, but Elon was already preparing for another attempt. The second launch was supposed to prove that the first failure had been a temporary mistake. Instead, another disaster occurred. The rocket failed again. Questions began spreading through the industry. Was SpaceX truly capable of succeeding, or was the company chasing an impossible dream? Every failure damaged confidence. Every failure consumed money. And every failure increased pressure on Elon. Yet, despite growing criticism, he refused to surrender. Then came the third launch. Employees knew the situation was serious. Investors knew the situation was serious. Most importantly, Elon knew the situation was serious. The company was running out of money. A third failure could destroy everything. The countdown began. The engines roared. The rocket climbed into the sky. For a brief moment, hope returned. Then the mission failed again. 3 launches, 3 failures. SpaceX was now standing at the edge of collapse. By 2008, SpaceX had enough money for only one final attempt. If the next launch failed, the company would likely disappear forever. Years of effort, hundreds of employees, one dream. Everything depended on a single rocket. The fourth Falcon 1 launch began. Everyone watched in silence. The rocket climbed higher and higher. Seconds became minutes. Then something incredible happened. The rocket successfully reached orbit. For the first time in history, a privately developed, liquid-fueled rocket had reached orbit. Employees celebrated. Some cried with relief. Others simply stared at the screens in disbelief. SpaceX had survived, and the future had just changed. While SpaceX was fighting for survival, another crisis was growing. Tesla, the electric car company that Elon had invested in, was facing serious problems. Production delays, rising costs, and growing skepticism were pushing the company toward disaster. At the time, many people believed electric cars would never become mainstream. Gasoline vehicles dominated the roads, and large automakers saw little reason to change. Tesla was losing money. Investors were worried. Critics were predicting failure, and Elon suddenly found himself trying to save two struggling companies at the same time. Most entrepreneurs would have focused on one battle. Elon was fighting two. The end of 2008 became one of the most stressful periods of Elon Musk's life. The global financial crisis was shaking the world economy. Banks were collapsing. Businesses were failing. Investors were becoming extremely cautious. Meanwhile, both Tesla and SpaceX desperately needed money. Elon had already invested most of his fortune into his companies. Friends advised him to protect what remained. Many believed he should stop taking risks. But Elon made a different choice. Instead of saving himself, he continued funding the companies. For a brief period, he was closer to bankruptcy than most people realized. Everything he had built seemed to be hanging by a thread. Just when the situation seemed hopeless, an unexpected breakthrough arrived. NASA awarded SpaceX a major contract worth billions of dollars. The agreement gave the company a future. It provided funding. It provided credibility. Most importantly, it provided time. For years, critics had argued that SpaceX would never become a serious player in the space industry. Now, one of the world's most important space organizations was trusting the company with critical missions. The impossible dream suddenly looked far more realistic. After surviving its early struggles, SpaceX began moving faster than ever. The company developed Falcon 9, a more powerful rocket capable of carrying larger payloads into orbit. Launch after launch proved that SpaceX was no longer a small startup trying to survive. It was becoming a serious competitor. Governments noticed. Investors noticed. The entire aerospace industry noticed. What had once seemed impossible was becoming reality, and Elon was already thinking about the next challenge. For decades, rockets had followed the same pattern. Launch, use fuel, fall into the ocean, destroy billions of dollars. Elon believed there was a better way. What if rockets could land and fly again? Many experts consider the idea unrealistic. Yet, SpaceX continued testing. Again and again. Failure after failure. Explosion after explosion. Then, one historic day, a Falcon 9 booster landed successfully. The world watched in amazement. A science fiction idea, had become reality. While SpaceX was revolutionizing space travel, Tesla was transforming transportation. The company introduced vehicles that were fast, modern, and fully electric. At first, many people doubted the technology, but year after year, Tesla continued growing. The Model S impressed critics. The Model 3 reached millions of customers. Suddenly, every major automaker was discussing electric vehicles. Tesla had done more than build cars. It had changed an entire industry. Elon's ambitions extended beyond cars and rockets. Through a project called Starlink, SpaceX launched thousands of satellites into orbit. The goal was simple but powerful: provide internet access to people everywhere, including remote regions where traditional infrastructure was unavailable. Soon, Starlink terminals appeared in villages, rural communities, and isolated locations around the world. For millions of people, access to information became easier than ever before. The network continued expanding rapidly. In 2022, Elon shocked the world once again. He purchased Twitter, one of the most influential social media platforms on Earth. The acquisition generated enormous controversy. Supporters praised the move. Critics questioned it. Soon after, Twitter was rebranded as X. Elon described a vision of creating an everything app that could combine communication, payments, information, and many other services. Whether people agreed or disagreed, one thing was certain: the world was paying attention. As artificial intelligence advanced rapidly, Elon became increasingly involved in the field. He warned about both the opportunities and risks of powerful AI systems. At the same time, he launched new AI initiatives designed to compete in one of the most important technological races in history. By now, Elon Musk was no longer associated with just one industry. He was active in transportation, space exploration, energy, communications, artificial intelligence. His influence extended across multiple sectors that could shape the future of civilization. Then came the headline that captured global attention. By 2026, the combined value of Elon Musk's companies had reached extraordinary levels. SpaceX continued expanding. Tesla remained one of the world's most valuable automakers. Starlink was growing rapidly. New technologies were attracting investors from around the world. For a brief period, reports estimated that Elon Musk's net worth had crossed $1 trillion. Whether the number remained above that level or not was almost beside the point. The real story was not about money. The real story was about a boy who loved books, a teenager who left his home searching for opportunity, an entrepreneur who survived failure after failure, and a dreamer who refused to stop believing in impossible ideas. Because long before he became one of the richest people in history, Elon Musk was something else, a person willing to risk everything for a vision of the future. And perhaps that is the reason the world still watches him today. What do you think? Was Elon Musk simply lucky? Or did his success come from taking risks that most people were too afraid to take? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English through real-world stories, don't forget to subscribe for more.